Hollywood mocks capitalism, which seems odd because the people who produce the product are good capitalists. They compete hard to make money, but the message of much of what they write and produce says capitalism is shallow and cruel. Did you see this movie or the play that it's based on?
Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin, Ed Harris, Alan Arkin, from the Pulitzer Prize winner, Glengarry Glen Ross.
The movie's about cutthroat real estate salesmen who work for a heartless company and are driven to steal to keep their jobs. When I saw the play it's based on, I assumed it was written by another of Hollywood's anti-business lefties. Assumed that until a few years ago when the playwright wrote an article that the Village Voice titled, "Why I'm No Longer a Brain-Dead Liberal." That was David Mamet. He's also the author of American Buffalo, The Spanish Prisoner, more than 50 other plays and movies. He's lived and worked in the middle of that brain-dead liberal Hollywood culture for 40 years. Now, I realize you didn't title that article, Brain-Dead Liberal, but it's accurate. You say you were one?
I say I referred to myself as one, that I found that in referring to myself to others, I would say dismissively or diffidently, I, as a brain-dead liberal, of course, ha, ha, ha. And the truth was that I subconsciously realized that the political decisions I made were foolish.
Foolish because you weren't thinking about it and everybody around you was liberal and you just went along?
Yep.
But you're this brilliant guy doing all this original stuff in theater, but...
Well, you know, we all say, how did that smart, smart girl marry that idiot? You know, it happens.
What changed you?
Well, what changed me is I met a couple of conservatives, and I realized I'd never met any conservatives in my life. And then I met a fellow who was a very nice fellow, who was a neighbor, and when I moved to Los Angeles, and I said, oh, you know, which of the Democrats are you voting for? And he said, oh, I'm not voting for any of the Democrats. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, please forgive me for, and he started to laugh. He said, no, it's not a crime, it's called the political system. And I admired the man, and I started giving him books about liberalism, because I thought, such a nice guy on the road to ruin, on the road to perdition. And so he started sending me books, and his books made sense to me, and they made more sense than my books.
So, Eureka, it was suddenly people were thinking an entirely different way that you hadn't been exposed to before.
That's right.
I mean, I had this same experience. I went to Princeton. I thought I was exposed to the world. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered people like Milton Friedman and Friedrich Hayek. Mm-hmm. And they were some of the authors you were introduced to.
That's right. I originally, the first conservative book I think I ever wrote was Shelby Steele's A White Guilt, which led me to the works of Tom Sowell, and through them, fairly simultaneously, to Hayek and to Milton Friedman.
And what did they say that impressed you, that reached you?
Well, first of all, Friedman said, he said, there has to be accountability. He says, okay, you want to stop overcrowding on the highways? I'll do it tomorrow. Here's how. Stop licensing taxi cabs. What? He says, yeah, stop licensing taxi cabs. Why do we license? I used to drive a cab, so I know what he's talking about. The licenses are sold and resold. There really isn't any testing of the cabbies. The only reason they're licensed is to have a controlled market so that the license is a commodity. He says, if you stop licensing taxi cabs, tomorrow, you'll see guys and women on every street corner in every town saying, who wants to go to XYZ address? And they'll put 5 people in their car, and they'll drive them to that address. They'll be able to, they know they'll be there on time. They'll read the newspaper while they're there. And when the guy drops them off, if he's smart, he'll say, tomorrow, same thing, right? What do you guys want to drink for breakfast? And there'll be the cappuccino and the iced tea and the glass of milk. And after X months, he'll have 3 cars. And after X months, he'll have a fleet. And everyone will be competing to meet the needs of the commuters, which also is going to reduce traffic. Why are they allowed to compete? Because the government got the hell out of the business.
So you suddenly wake up, you write a book about it now called The Secret Knowledge.
Yeah.
And Hayek, it wasn't in The Road to Serfdom, in one of his other books, explains the secret knowledge, but I'll let you do that.
Well, the idea was that what Hayek is talking about is that we have to have a constrained vision of the universe. The unconstrained vision, the liberal vision, is that everything can be done. Everything is accomplished.
Can be planned.
Well, that can be accomplished. We can cure polio, cure AIDS, cure poverty, cure all disease, cure unemployment. We have that power. And he says, it's just not true. He says, we don't have the knowledge. He says, you have to have a constrained vision. There's only so much that government can do. Unfortunate but true. Would it be nice if giving all of our money to the government could cure poverty? Maybe, giving money to the government causes slavery, as we see in every state in which it's been brought about.
And this came from Hayek's book, The Fatal Conceit, and
Exactly.
That's what he calls it. The politician has a conceit that he can plan everybody else's life and the world will be better.
Yeah. And it occurred to me, too, it's like the most fatuous statement that we ever hear. You have any kids?
I do.
Okay, I got a bunch of kids. The most fatuous statement that anybody with kids could ever hear is someone who doesn't have kids, who has an opinion on kids. It says, you know my niece, right? And so we make that face because you don't know anything about kids until the nurse says, here you are, off you go, take the kid home, good luck. Until you have that.
And even then, you only know about your own kids, and you barely know them or what they want.
Indeed, and you're doing the best you can, and almost always you're failing, right? So the guy in government can't know everything.